Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about 2002's Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, starring Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. In Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, 10 years after their initial meeting, Anakin Skywalker enters into a forbidden romance with Padme Amidala, whilst Obi-Wan is investigating the assassination attempt on her life, and on his way, he discovers a clone army built for the Jedi. And so we have Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. So guys, today's review was requested by no one. This one I just wanted to watch because one of my subscribers suggested that I should watch the original trilogy, but I thought before I get to that, I should watch and review the prequel trilogy. I've already done Episode 1, and now I'm on Episode 2. So in this review I may end up saying a couple of the same things that I ended up saying in my Episode 1 review, but to be fair, they warrant repeating. But in any case, let's get into Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now, I'm just going to kind of recap something I said in my Star Wars Episode 1 review. I remembered when I first watched this movie, absolutely loving it. Then I kind of got on board the hate train of being like, oh, the prequels are bad. Obviously, I still loved Episode 3, but I really got onto the hate train with Episode 1 and 2. But then I revisited these movies and discovered they are not bad movies in the slightest. Granted, they're not perfect. They have some issues, but really, these small issues do not bog the movie down. Like for me, for the longest time, I thought that Hayden Christensen was a really bad Anakin Skywalker. I thought that his acting was atrocious and that he just really was the wrong choice. However, revisiting this movie, Hayden Christensen is an excellent choice for Anakin Skywalker. But I can understand why people would think that he is bad in this film. And it does kind of come down to a lot of the decisions that George Lucas made, especially in the acting style that George Lucas chose for this film. Now, from what I heard, George Lucas wanted to have a style that was reflectant on like late 40s, early 50s acting style. Something like James Dean. Now, I've never really watched the James Dean movie, but from the few clips that I have seen in reference to this is definitely the style in which Hayden Christensen is acting in. And from other things that I've seen him in, he is a good actor. I'm not going to go out there and say that he's a great actor or an amazing actor, but he is definitely not a bad one. Basically, Hayden Christensen is doing the job that George Lucas told him to do. But again, even without that, he's still really good in this film. Because really, I find a lot of the things that he does and the character interactions he has are very subtle. And sometimes you can blink and you miss them. Like really, the first scene that he has with Padme in this film. Now, up until this point, you're getting context with Padme's character that she spent most of her life in politics and she can never really let her guard down. Because obviously she's spending all of her life around politicians, so she always has to keep those kind of walls up. But then, as soon as she starts to talk to Anakin, she kind of lets her guard down for a second and actually smiles. But then as soon as she's let her guard down, it's right back up. And then she kind of has to, she has to kind of gather herself again with saying something along the lines of, oh, Anakin, you'll always be that little boy I knew on Tatooine. And to be honest, I can kind of understand why people would say that their relationship felt rushed. But again, really, their whole relationship is very subtle. It's a lot of little things that once added together make it all really work. Like when they're on Naboo talking about how the Senate should actually work, Padme obviously says that she believes in democracy and the fact that people have to actually talk about their problems. And then Anakin says something in the lines of that people should be made to want to listen to one another. Basically, Anakin says this idea of a perfect system is to basically have a dictatorship. But then as soon as he sees that Padme isn't really going for that, or she's really almost horrified by his ideals, he just plays it off like it's a joke. And then another scene, which out of context is hilarious. I'm not going to deny that. The sand line is funny out of context. We all know it. I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. By itself, it is a very silly line, but within the context of the scene, it makes perfect sense. Because within this scene, Padme is describing her childhood, the fact that she had like a really nice, luscious childhood, where her friends would, be playing on the nice soft sand. Whereas Anakin's memory of sand is it being really coarse and irritating and rough, and it just brings up a lot of bad memories because obviously he grew up on Tatooine, where the sand is just everywhere and it's an inconvenience more than it is a luxury. So again, within context, this line makes perfect sense. Could that line been a little better written? Yes, it probably could have, but it still works within this scene. But really, the scenes where Hayden Christensen really shines for me is the scenes where he's basically saying nothing, where he's letting his facial expressions do all the characterization for him. And it really plays to the fact that this character can really work in a silent film format, which I believe is another thing which George Lucas wanted to give the impression of. He wanted this movie to feel like it could work as a silent movie. But then someone who's really given more of a chance to shine is Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, he was good in episode 1, but it's really in episode 2 and 3 where he really starts to shine. And you start to see earlier glimpses of Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan Kenobi, whilst at the same time, he still makes it his own character. So the fact that Ewan McGregor was able to balance paying tribute whilst at the same time playing his own character is nothing short of amazing. And again, like episode 1, some of the things that I've heard people complain about with this movie are just ridiculous. Like the fact that people complain about this movie is just people standing and talking, it's people sitting and talking, it's people walking and talking while one person is sitting and talking. It's just, how are you supposed to have a movie without dialogue? Like, honestly, it's just a silly criticism, which I just don't really want to give any light to. And as well, I haven't really heard it that much with this movie, but obviously, a lot of people say that the first movie is hard to follow. And I think I've heard a couple people say that this one's sort of hard to follow, but again, really, you're just not watching the movie. It's really simple story to understand. It's about the fact that so many systems are leaving the Galactic Senate and joining the Separatists, and obviously the Jedi are trying to stop that, but it eventually becomes out of hand and then civil war breaks out. That's really the heart of the story. And if you can't follow that, then you're obviously not watching the film. But obviously, like episode 1, episode 2 really saves a lot of the good stuff for the end. It's as this movie enters into the third act where we see a lot of the great action that the prequels are known for. Honestly, you cannot deny that hundreds of Jedi fighting in a Geonosian Coliseum isn't anything short of awesome. The fact that these are the kind of scenes that people really wanted to see in the prequels, the Jedi in their prime all fighting together, and then when all hope seems lost, the clones come in, and I've just got to say, I absolutely love the clones. They're one of the main reasons why I just love the prequels. And the clones are something that obviously got much better in the Clone Wars series. Not so much the original Clone Wars series, the Dave Filoni series, because though I did like the clones in the prequels, it's in the Clone Wars series where they really shine. The fact they actually give each of the clones individual names and actually make it feel like they've got different personalities. I mean, on paper, it is kind of hard to describe the different personalities of the clones, but it's just watching them. I mean, you could have two clones standing next to each other and you can easily tell who is who. Obviously, there isn't a hard rule for every clone because some of them are just background characters, but if you have two named clones next to each other, you know who they are. And I really wish we could have actually seen more of that in the prequels. I feel that it is one part of the prequels where they could have actually done more. Because honestly, I think in the whole of the prequels, there's only two named clone characters. That being Boba Fett and Commander Cody. Now, I could be wrong, they could have actually named other clones within the prequel movies, but for the most part, those are the only two I remembered having names. But it's the fact of seeing the clones be an early reflection of what the Stormtroopers will be. Obviously, the clones and the Stormtroopers aren't the same thing. Some clones did go on to be Stormtroopers, but for the most part, the Stormtroopers aren't the clones. But it's just within these scenes, you see the early stages of what the Empire will be. It's just nothing short of incredible. And then towards the end as well, you've got the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Count Dooku, Anakin and Count Dooku, and Yoda and Count Dooku. Now, I'm not going to lie, the lightsaber duels within this film aren't as good as the ones in Episode 1 or Episode 3. They are still good, but really, with Episode 1, it was kind of hard to top what happened in that film, so they didn't really try. While it was still well choreographed, they didn't try and be too fancy with it. It was definitely a little bit more character driven. The fact that within this scene Anakin shows how incredibly headstrong he is, the fact that he thinks that Padme is dead in the scene, so he just rushes straight at Count Dooku and obviously suffers for it, leaving Obi-Wan to fight by himself, then he's defeated, then Anakin comes back in, gives Count Dooku a bit of a run for his money, but then is swiftly taken care of in a way which honestly, I think undoes a lot of the awesome choreography that is within this scene. The fact that Anakin just kind of opens his guard up, giving Count Dooku a chance to do a 360 spin and cut his arm off. Honestly, it is just a little bit of bad choreography. And then you get the Yoda Count Dooku fight, which honestly, people saying that, oh, it ruins Yoda's character and all this kind of stuff. It's just silly, really. It's just a chance to see a beloved original series character do something more than just hobble around. The fact you actually get to see this great Jedi warrior actually being a Jedi warrior. Overall, guys, Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones is an amazing film. Again, I can understand a couple of the criticisms that people have with this film, but for the most part, the fact that people have just blind hatred towards the prequels is just ridiculous. The performances are really good, the action's incredible, the effects still hold up today, and again, it just paves the way for a just amazing sequel. Like I keep saying, it is still my favourite Star Wars movie, and I cannot wait to review that movie as well. Even though I have already kind of done it, but I am going to do another review for it. But do I think you guys should watch this film? Absolutely. Just ignore the haters, like I said in my episode 1 review, and just watch this movie for yourself and draw your own conclusion. If after watching it you still don't like it, then, you know, fair enough. If you still think that the original trilogy is better than the prequel trilogy, then by all means, you know, that's your right. There is some things that the original trilogy does better than the prequel trilogy. Me, I'll always be a prequel guy. Not that I think the original trilogy is bad, it's just I prefer the prequel trilogy. Everyone's got their preferences, and that's just the way it is. Okay, guys, that's my review of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think I should watch next? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya.